G'day fellas and welcome to another Season 7 English guide. The Abbey of Kings has been buffed and it is absolutely crazy. In this video I'm going to show you a build order where you go fast castle and you look to get heaps of knights out early. It's a really cool build order, a little bit different from the fast second town center build order. So let's get into it. We're going to start off with all villagers onto sheep. We're going to try and move the sheep. We're of course going to queue villas in our town center and then send our scout out. And then we're going to move one villager out over here, build a mining camp, build a house, and we're going to bring these sheep back in under the town center. We're also going to send our scout on a very aggressive loop, and that is because we're putting down two farms. Always make sure you put them down next to each other, because we're going to be putting down a mill at the back of the town center as well. Now, one of the really important things about this build order is not forgetting your farms. The farms are important because these are an infinite source of food, which means that you're not exhausting your sheep as fast, and we're going to be using that food to get up to the castle age. We're going to be looking for a pretty quick castle age here, around the 8-minute mark, so it's important that we've got as much food as we can. Because we're also dropping these farms earlier, it means we've got less villagers on sheep, which means we're draining the sheep a lot slower. That means that our scout can do a more aggressive sheep run, and you can go very deep into the opponent's base, which is exactly what I'm doing. And this is an intentional play, what we're doing here. I'm using a little bit of mind tricks here. I'm showing myself in his base, and I'm showing the direction to him that I'm going around, and I'm showing that I'm planning to come over to this east side. But meanwhile, I'm actually just going to do a loop back over here. You can't really do this on many other maps. I think Cliffside's probably the best one for it, just because it's got a nice open thing. But anyway, look, that's a minute thing. Don't worry about doing that too much. All you're really interested in is collecting lots of sheep, and the best thing that you can do with that is going for a very big scout run, I guess is probably the best word for it. Now, a lot of this is going to look very similar if you've seen the recent Fast Town Center build order that I did for the English. We're looking to do pretty much the identical stuff with our gold vills. The only difference is with these farms, it is going to delay our age up just a little bit because they are slightly slower than sheep at this stage because we don't have the mill down yet, and we can't afford it. You could gather wood for it, but I just don't think it would be worth it this early because our priority is just to get that age up through as quickly as possible. So in the last build order, we took off our villagers from food at 2:15. Here I'm just going to be taking it off at 2:20. So it's about 5 seconds later that we're going to get up to the feudal age. 5 seconds later that you're going to be able to hit your opponent. But it's still pretty damn early. So you can see right here, there we go, doing the hand in. And now with 10 villagers, we're going to be building our Abbey of Kings. Of course, this map is cliffside, so I get a really good spawn here. We've both got front gold, and you know exactly what that means. Now, I'm playing up against a French player. I've had a look at this guy. I know that he's Chinese. He's got a really high win rate. His ranking, his 1v1 rating's like 1700. There's not many Chinese players that have got that high of a rating, so I was thinking it could be Louis MT. It's probably not. I saw in his match history, the game before this one, he just played against Puppy Paw. It was a bit of a long game, but he did end up losing. I'll tell you right now, I'll spoil it for you. I don't win this game. This guy's pretty good. And I'll be honest, this is the first time I'm actually trying this strategy in the real world. So it's going to take some fine-tuning, we'll say that much. But as you can see, with our aggressive scout run, we have done pretty well with our sheep here. We've got 12 sheep, which is going to be more than enough to get us up to castle age. You can get up there about 6 or 7 sheep. If you've got 6 or 7 sheep, you should be fine. And we also have the extra 2 under the TC. So now that we've aged up, the most important thing is we need to get our scout back to drop off the sheep underneath the town center, and then that scout... Oh, Trongo, is that idle villager? Idle TC time right there? Oh my gosh. You don't realize it in the game when it's happening. But obviously, yeah, you definitely realize it right there. So I'll just pause it quickly just to... Oh, let's mute that. That bell is going ham. So once you've aged up, your king's going to be coming out naturally. But let's talk about what you do after that. So we're not going to keep those 2 villagers on gold, even though we're going for a fast castle, which might seem counterintuitive. But what we're going to do is we're going to take 5 vills from this landmark, because there's 10 that we're building it. 5 are going to go chop a tree, and 5 are just going to go back over here to gather up the food. And with this 50 wood that you're going to get, there's a couple of different things that you can do. But the general rule is this. If your opponent is going to be aggressive, you want to try and look to get an outpost down on your gold. So that means if you're playing against the French, if you're playing against Joan of Arc, if you're playing against the Rus, maybe if you're playing against the Mongols, because even though the Mongols don't typically spear rush the English, I wouldn't be surprised if that actually changes around now with the Abbey of the King. So I do suspect in that build order, in that matchup, you're probably just going to go for your Council Hall because of the proclivity for spearman rushes. But the point is, depending on how aggressive your opponent is and whether they're going to be able to hit you with knights, keshiks, Ghazi raiders, that sort of thing, we want to look for an outpost on the gold, which we're going to be doing here. But we're also going to be adding in a lumber camp. We're going to be adding in a house. We're going to be adding in 2 more farms, and we're going to be adding in a mill. So we'll keep an eye out on that. I'm going to start by adding in my farms first. You can see I've actually got just enough to put down 2 farms. That's perfect. That's intended. That's calculated. It's 37 wood for each one, so that'll allow us to put down 2 more. That's, once again, going to extend out the life of our sheep. Let's unmute now. So there is that second farm that's coming through. And now that we've got 50 wood in the bank, we'll be looking to put down a house or a mill. Normally, I think a house is probably the best option here. So you can see I'm going to put that down. But we are going to get out and get aggressive early on here. You can see the French player still hasn't even aged up, and we've got units in his base. That is how broken this is. And keep in mind, this isn't even the fastest way to get the king out, right? Like, you can technically get faster than this. Now, making sure that we're not population blocked. You can see there the house does come down, and then we're going to be putting down the mill. So now, if I was playing against, let's say, the Chinese, I wouldn't be putting an outpost on my gold. I wouldn't do it, which means that these 5 villages would instead just go straight to food. But because I'm playing against the French, and they are quite an aggressive civilization, we know he's going to have a school of cavalry here. It's going to train cavalry units faster. He's probably going to be getting a knight, and he wants to target our gold most likely. We want to make sure that we have got a protection. And so what we're going to do is, with these 5 villages, we're going to do 2 rounds out here. In the event that you gather up the 3rd round, that's absolutely fine. I guess my main point is, don't stomp 2 stragglers. We need 2 stragglers, ideally, because in the last build order, it was don't stomp any of the stragglers. Here, it's don't stomp 2 of them. So, now doing a little bit of scouting, we're just preventing the gold. So, as long as you prevent the gold, then you prevent the knights. The thing is, he's already collected quite a bit of gold here. So, one of the things that they can do, the French players, is instead of, you can see he's got the mill out here, he can cancel his wheelbarrow and then use that to make knights, and then that will free up his gold, which he can then convert into, obviously, wheelbarrow and more units. But now we've got the 100 wood taken from this tree. We're going to throw down the outpost. We're going to rush this up as well, just because of the positioning here. It's not the best. He could have probably snuck a knight out towards me, and I just want to make sure that we actually get this outpost up. So we're going to look to try and cover that, and once again, we're just making sure that we are targeting the gold, focusing the gold. Remember, if you can kill villagers, that's absolutely fine, or that's a good thing. But the goal here is just to be annoying, right? So we're now going to force an outpost on his gold as well. Gives him a little bit of security, and we can see that the knight is now in the base, and we are just very happy with this position. And so from here, what we've done is we've begun putting villagers over onto gold. You know what? That was probably a pretty big step that I've missed out, but I'll give you the general rule. 14 vills on food, and then transfer villagers over to gold. And you can trickle them out slowly. It doesn't have to be a big quick transfer, but 14 villagers on food. And then so those 5 villagers that are on wood, you can kind of divvy it up, but you only need to keep the 14. I've got 13 at the moment. I think that's just because I've thrown down the outpost. But yeah, don't do as I do as I say. And even if this is technically a build order, you can still be, it's rough. It's a guideline or a framework. Think of it like that. So once again, we're not looking to kill the villagers. I mean, hey, we'll take Vill kills if we can, but he's obviously pretty quick on the ball, and we're going to cause a little bit of idle time here. And keep in mind that we can just run back and go and heal up our king. He does obviously heal himself slowly, but we can always just come back, and we spot now that knight on the top side, which is always a good thing for us because it means he's going to be away from the gold. That's going to be the point that we are most scared of. And if he does come in, we can just garrison quickly with the town center just to get lots more arrows onto him. And now that king, he's going to heal up. We've got 3 idols over here. We've just gathered up that 50 wood. Drongo, what's going on over here, mate? Look at this. So we'll throw down a lumber camp with that last 50 wood that we had. And we need to try and get that house up. So we've gone, in this game, we've gone 13 to food, 8 over to gold, and then we've gone over to wood because we need to make sure that we beat that housing. We don't want to get blocked on the housing. And this is very intentional that we've done this. So in some fast castle build orders, one of the things that you will do is you'll move out like 4 or 5 villages quite early over to gold. The reason why I'm moving the villages gradually is because what we want to do is we want to ramp up our gold. Because as we hit castle, we want to have a lot of gold in the bank because there's a lot of things that we need to do with gold once we get into the castle age. Things like going for monks, things like getting out knights. These are going to be really important. And now we see the second town center. I make a little bit of a mistake here. I'm picking off this villager and I think to myself, oh, cool, a free villager. King gets bugged out. I don't know if you guys saw that. It was a little bit buggy when he was taking that shot, but I unfortunately lose my king. And this is a massive mistake for me because the king is free and the king provides so much pressure. So I think that was something that I probably should have realized when the knights were attacking me. So that was a big mistake. And I think this is something that you'll only learn as you play more. So now it's 7 minutes 15. We're going to throw down the Eiffel Tower. I don't know why I called it the Eiffel Tower. The White Tower. And we're being very careful with our macro. So you can see now we're going to be balancing it so that we need 4 villagers on food to gather enough food for villager production. So any excess is going to be going into units. So that's what we're going to be doing here. So I've got 1 fewer vills on gold than I would like. I can't remember exactly why the reason is. Anyway, don't worry. It's not so much about being tight with it. It's more just about following that framework. Gonna go for a couple of little walls here just to try and prevent these knights from getting any significant connections. Gonna be able to get our garrison off, intentionally splitting up the vills, 2 on this side, 5 on this side, just so that we can have full coverage. But now with that age up coming through, we're gonna be looking to put pressure on the town center here. There's a couple of ways that you can do this, and this is really where it branches off, and you can decide for yourself, choose your own adventure from this point on. So we've gotten Castle Age, and now that we've gotten Castle Age, we've got access to relics, and that's really important. So look to try and pick those up. I would definitely say from the outset, going for relics is a very smart move. It's free gold, and it's for the rest of the game. So if you can pick it up, you'll be very happy. The other thing that you'll have access to is going to be the Knight. So that's something that we're going to look to play into. We're going to play into Knights, and we're going to play into Relics. And this is something in this matchup I had tested with before, up against the French or Jeanne d'Arc. Going into Knights directly is, or going to Castle Age 4 Knights directly is a really nice play. Just because it's very uncommon for French players to make spears. They don't like it. They will make 5,000 knights and archers before they make a single spearman. It's very rare. Unless you're playing against someone like GUA, who will definitely throw spears down even on the French. So now we've got ourselves a nice little macro position here. We've worked out a couple of vills here on wood, and these are going to be working towards getting that monastery down. And at the same time, we're going to start getting knights out here. This White Tower, we want to keep it close to the town center, just mainly because we don't want our opponent to deny that from us. If we had gone and put this town, or this White Tower, up here, there's a risk that those Royal Knights could have come in and killed those villagers. Even though I would have loved to have had that White Tower out the front, maybe even contesting the sacred site, it's just not, unfortunately, a viable option up against aggressive civilizations like the French. If you're playing against, say, the Chinese or the Abbasid and they didn't have any units out, then absolutely you could consider throwing down that White Tower in the middle of the map. But we're going to keep up production. So the idea is we want to try and take damage on our knights, and this is the general theory with Abbey of Kings. We want to take damage on our knights, bring them back, heal them up. A little bit of a horseman mistake right here. And depending on how good you are, depends on how much you can use this. Somebody like Lucifron would absolutely just destroy every matchup. He'd destroy, full spears. He'd be able to fight it because of how good his micro is. My micro is decent, but my multitasking's not that good. And that's what sets, the Conquer 3, or Conquer 3 and Conquer 4 players apart. It's probably going to be multitasking most days of the week. So here we're going to be adding in our monastery behind. I did queue an upgrade in, you may have seen it, but then I quickly cancelled it as I realized I needed the gold for my monk. So we want to start off with just 1 to begin with. Just getting that 1 monk in, try and prioritize the close relic in matchups where... Sorry, let me pause it just to get this out. In matchups where your opponent is going to stay feudal, get your close relic first. In matchups where your opponent is going castle as well, go for the contested relics. All right, let's focus on this and see what happens. So this horseman was an accident. We're going to let him go. But all the rest of the other knights, all the other knights, we're going to be making sure we send back when they get to about 50% health. We will also want to be working to try and pick off enemy knights. That's really important. We want to do our best to try and keep ours alive. The scout as well is another important unit that we want to be keeping alive. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go run these underneath the Abbey of King. And because they're out of combat, it's going to start healing them. Throw off a nice little charge here as well. Managed to keep our scout alive on 2 health. Absolutely lovely. And now we can start thinking about our transition. So this is another, choose your own adventure pathway right here. What are your options? Number 1, well, now that you've started to pick up relics, or at least you will be picking up relics very soon, you can look to add in a 2nd town center. You could even look to add in a 3rd town center if you want. Because you're Castle Age, you've got a pretty decent position here. But for me, I like to just keep making units because typically you should be able to do well against an opponent. If we go have a look at caster mode right now, I think we've probably killed, 2 villagers so far, but he does have quite the worker advantage. We're going to be looking to pick that up, that difference up with relics. However, that town center is pumping out villagers very, very quickly here, just because he is playing the French. So, we're going to find ourselves some more villagers, and once again, we're going to be challenging the gold. And now you can see that our opponent's still got some decent knight numbers. Even though we've got castle age knights, he still outnumbers us, and he's got his healing through as well, which means if his micro's decent, we will suffer. So we have to be very careful, but we're going to pick up a couple more vills here, which is always nice. And now with the spears here, it makes it very difficult for him to actually, fight us. He can definitely fight us here, and you can see he's picking off the spears with his outpost. But here we're just trying to provoke a fight. We're just trying to take damage on our knights, because when we do that, then we can get value from our Abbey of Kings. Meanwhile, behind this, we are picking up those relics. We are rallying more units out. You can see we're not doing that best, or our best with our production. We're floating a little bit of resources here, but this is the general idea that I like to go for. So now with our first relic in the bag, you make sure that you do a nice little rally out with these. So with your monks, a nice little tip is that you can... Oh, we're going to lose a knight here. That's actually a pretty big loss here. I shouldn't be losing any knights. You can see him using the movement speed of the knights to get the charge up here, and then he'll bring them around here and try and loop in on these ones at the back. Oh, a little bit of a misplay from him. Does he get that knight as well? Oh, I hope he doesn't. All right, so once again, we're going to try and find value off that Abbey of the Kings. We can use the spears to defend. Vils, what are you guys doing? Poor Vil just running to their death. Yeah, so at this stage of the game, we're obviously looking pretty good. We're feeling good about ourselves. We're collecting relics. We're castle age. We've got knights out. But he's obviously got some decent pressure that's coming out here. And I think that's, credit to him as a player. He's quite a decent player, whoever this is. I don't know if it's Louis. I suspect it is, just judging by the playstyle. Very methodical. The account really doesn't have a lot of games on it, but incredibly high win rate. I think like 90% win rate, something ridiculous. So, yeah, that wouldn't surprise me. But... yeah, so let's get that music back in. I tell you what, maybe we just turn the music down, because it just feels like feels like our master volume's probably a little bit too high. There we go. All right, so when it comes to combos, if you're playing in the castle age, one of the big things that you can look to do is go into crossbows. I'm just going to pause it quickly. If you're playing against the Holy Roman Empire, you would play this matchup quite a bit differently, and I wish I had a game against the Holy Roman Empire that I could show you. Unfortunately, I don't. What you would look to do is scout relics, and you would look to pick up relics sooner. So here I delayed my monastery, whereas against the Holy Roman Empire, I would get one knight out, two knights out, and then I would throw down my monastery, and I would look to pick up those relics as quickly as possible. Here we're still picking them up relatively quickly, but at this stage of the game, the Holy Roman Empire player would have already picked them up. So you really have to be thinking about, the matchup and the way that you're going to play it. How quickly do you need to pick up these relics? But here, because my opponent is feudal age, I can stay quite a bit longer. So from here, I'll show you how I follow up the rest of the game, because we get pretty close to taking him out. Unfortunately, as I said before, we don't actually do it. We don't get the conversion. But now we're able to start pushing into his base. One of the things that we do need to respect are these knights, but at the same time, he knows he needs to respect our knights as well. So he's going to have to bring them back, and we're going to try and get some damage on here. But you can see it's quite difficult if both players are on the ball when it comes to their micro. Focusing on the macro aspect of it, we're adding in farms slowly, and now that we've gotten out our monks, we can start thinking about upgrades. So eco upgrades are going to be the first thing you want. So look to try and pick up your wheelbarrow, look to pick up your horticulture, look to pick up your double broadaxe. These are really important upgrades. Also look to pick up your specialized pick. You want to pick up all of your tier 1s. Then you can think about throwing down your blacksmith. And then you can think about getting your tier 1 blacksmith upgrades, and then you can look at getting tier 2s. Normally, I would encourage you to get wood cutting tier 2. Really, really strong upgrade. Yeah, we're going to be able to put on... We're going to continue to put on pressure here. One of the things that mistakes that I'm making is I think I always want to be coming back here to the Abbey of Kings and just making sure that I'm getting healing in, because I've got 2 low knights here that could be full health, and that's a bit of a pain. Compare that to his army. Obviously, he's got healing as well, but you can see, there's a few of them there that are relatively low that we would be able to outnumber. Now, when it comes to numbers, we're 14 knights, 11 spearmen, and he's on 19 knights. So we're pretty close to him, and definitely would take a favorable engagement if he tried to fight us here. And now that he's reached castle, even if he gets his veterancy upgrade and his royal blood, the royal bloodline upgrade is absolutely broken. He would probably destroy us if he had it in these numbers. But good news is it takes 90 seconds to come through. So we know we've got some time there before it actually comes in. All right, so now we've managed to pick up 3 of the relics. This is going to be the 4th relic. I unfortunately didn't know where the last relic was. It was down here in this corner. I thought it might be over here, so you can see I'm actually going to send my monk into this corner, hoping to have gotten it. but it wasn't the case. So, yeah, a little bit sad there. We're continuing just to spam out units. That's one of the great things about the White Tower is you've got really good flexibility. And I'm just going to pause it to explain. This is something I've explained before, but I will do it now. The best way for you to handle your production as an English player, if you go for the White Tower, is to put your White Tower in a control group. I'm going to put it in control group 4. I put my town centers in control group 5, and then I put my armies in. So here I'd have my knights in control group 1 and my spears in control group 2. So I put my White Tower in control group 4, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to click a barracks, or if I've got multiple barracks, I can double click them, or I can just press F4, and that will select all of them. And then I'm just going to press Shift 4, and that's going to add them into the control group, but it's going to leave the White Tower at the start. And what that means is I can basically just click anything down here, and it will allocate it out to every respective production building. I don't have to go tabbing through. I'm sure you've seen these little tabbing things, and, you know, okay, let's make some spearmen, let's make some longbows, that sort of thing. All you need to do interact with is just down here. This is it. Makes it very easy. So Shift and then your hotkey of choice or your control group of choice. That would be my recommendation for managing it. Makes life much easier. And you can do this with a lot of things, right? Like if you're playing Chinese, you can do it with the barracks and the archery range. You do the barracks first and then the archery range. And then you can just press QR, 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 and that'll be for your Zhuganu and spears. So that's always a nice little way that you can play. So we're going to start adding crossbows in because obviously he's got quite a lot of knights out, and we can make spears and we can make knights, but we can even counter them further with crossbows. So once we get up to, it's around 15 to 16 crossbows, we'll be able to one-shot the royal knights, and then that will allow us to have a lot more power in these fights because instead of them getting away on low health, they will just be dead. And that will be very, very nice for us. So we're going to look to try and spend all of our resources, but one of the things that you'll note is that as the relics come through, you get more and more resources. It gets very difficult to control just how many you've got in the bank. So you need to make sure that you are throwing down extra production all the time. His numbers are looking pretty fearsome now. 18 royal knights. Veterancy has come through. No royal bloodlines just yet. He's brought a villager as well. Why not? I took a couple of villagers over towards the other side, so I'll allow it. This is one of those cases where we need to respect this. We need to chase this. And we're going to cop ourselves a nice little fight here as he is going to engage the spears. I think he may not have been paying attention completely. Yeah, the spears pick up some decent value there as we get a royal knight and a scout. But this is something that we need to respect. We just can't run into his base right now and go and start to attack him. And the main reason why is because he can just take these knights. He can burn down a wall here. And then he can just run through our base and kill villagers. Now, we've got 35 space that we can garrison in. We've got 55 vills, so that would mean that there'd be 20 villagers out there that wouldn't have a home, and that is quite scary. So the best thing that you can do in this situation is just make sure your knights and your spears are keeping up with each other, because otherwise the knights will just destroy your knights because he's got more of them. So now focusing on the macro, I can see the large amount of knights that he's got here, and it seems like he's really not stopping with that. So I say, you know what, we're just going to go hard on crossbows. So crossbow spear is one of my favorite combos. I love opening with knights and then going into crossbow spear, so this is definitely a huge plus for me. But one of the big issues that I've got right now, if I was coaching myself, I'd be like, Drongo, you got way too much gold. If I was you, I'd just start queuing up all of my upgrades, and that's exactly what I'm doing. So looking to queue up any upgrade that I can to try and spend that gold. That's going to be really important here because, as you can see, I've got a lot of gold in the bank, and I need to make sure that it's not there. Another thing I can do is look to pull these vills off gold, which is a pretty big mistake for me to be stacking up 1,600 gold, especially this early in the game, only at 18 minutes. Because I'm not looking to spend that gold on anything, right? Like, that gold is just going to sit there until I spend it. But we're going to take a fight in the middle here. Do you guys want the cast? I could give you guys the cast. Because it looks like a pretty fair fight, right? Arbalatrier together with the Royal Knights. But Arbalatrier, they're going to get value up against the Knights. But our comp has pretty much switched now. We're Spearman Crossbow. That's our combo that we're looking for here. And the one key that is going to make this combo work perfectly is going to be Monsieur Mangonel. That's the French pronunciation, Mr. Mangonel. But we're going to take a decent fight here. Arbalatrier going to try and defend. There's nothing here to brace for them, so it means that we're going to get our full charge damage onto all those Arbalatrier. Crossbows on the back. Numbers still not that good. We do lose the king in the fight. We're not really pulling back anything here just because we're confident with our numbers, and indeed we have the right to be as we overwhelm our opponent in this situation. Now keep in mind, behind this villager count is going to be in his advantage. He's up 40 villagers at this stage, which is kind of crazy. I didn't realize he was that far ahead on his eco, but I guess I should be. Is he 3 TC? I guess I know he's French, but Oh, no, that does make sense. Okay. I was thinking, because normally I play the Chinese, and I was like, man, I don't have this many vills at this time. But no, I was comparing it to the 15-minute mark. The 15-minute mark as the Chinese, I've got like 92 vills, I think it is. So, yeah, never mind. All right, so we're down on eco, but there's a chance. And that is a strike at the heart of the enemy. So that's what our game plan is going to be. We're going to look to gather up stones slowly, and I'm going to look to place a keep down in his base, and then I'm going to start trebbing from behind it. The only issue is, I know where 2 landmarks are. I just don't know where the 3rd one is. And normally what happens is players put their 3rd landmark pretty close to their 2nd one. Only issue is, this bad boy's all the way down here. And it wasn't really an option for me to go for that with my trebuchets. It was way too far to run. But let's continue watching. We might even speed it up a little bit here. So, my main combo here, once again, it's crossbows, spearmen, and then a mangonel or 2 at the back. And I'm hoping that he doesn't see this mangonel. That's really important to me, that he doesn't see that mangonel. I just realized we've got the colors on. I don't even think I pick my color anymore. I just always play in those colors. I got sick of so many times I'd pick like green and someone else would pick teal, or I'd pick red and they'd pick orange. I just got annoyed with it. It'd be cool if it locked you to... Oh, so he does spot my mangoes here. Okay. I was wondering, because I was trying to keep the mangoes hidden, and he pulls up and he's got I mean, he's already got Springles in queue. Mad respect. But yeah, okay. I guess that explains it. He knew exactly what was up. All right, let's check in and see how he's doing here. We'll ride on board with him as he controls his units down here. He's got a pretty decent position, right? And obviously he wins this game. But I think the baseline for what this is has been demonstrated pretty well here. So hopefully we can refine it down a little bit more. If you've got any ideas on the pathway that you'd like to see, let me know. I think this could go well with FFA as well, going into the very quick Castle Age for knights, together with relics. It's very, very nice. The only difference is that you'd probably want to go into town centers a little bit sooner. But here we've got that push coming in. We realize that our numbers are very good. Mango shots coming down. Arbaletier numbers pretty decent, but with our mangonels, they are a huge threat here. So we're going to make sure that we pay attention to this siege workshop. We need to make sure that if a Springald comes out, we chase it down immediately. We don't want it to get any shots off on our mangonels, but I make the mistake of running my knight back here. And now, this is probably the only reason why I don't think it was Louis MT. It's because the Arbaletier micro wasn't the best. He did lose quite a bit of Arbaletiers in this fight. So we're going to throw a keep down. Very aggressive keep here. And now the most important thing is we just want to max out on Trebs and Springalds. And spears, just to defend against knights. But once again, you know, I just reiterate, the Royal Institute's all the way down here, so we're not going to get him anyway. He's got a powerful eco, and he just overwhelms us. So we'll 8x. We'll 8x from here. We'll mute it just so you don't have to hear all of the stuff. And that's going to be it. If you've got any feedback, though, if you've got any ideas, any suggestions, please let me know, because I feel like this is definitely a solid opening for the English. It looks really, really good. I like the way that it plays from the Castle Age. I think it's going to work well in matchup. In some matchups, the 2TC is going to work better. In some matchups, the Fast Castle is going to work better. But I definitely think the Abbey of Kings is here to stay. It is very, very powerful. And you can see right there, we just get overwhelmed. And from here, my thinking is, okay, well, you know, we've got a whole bunch of horsemen, a whole bunch of Arbaletier. So we're going to go spearmen, and we are going to go mangonels. And then I hear the sound of the Red Palace. And so immediately I run my Vills over here just to try and block it with a wall. You can see I got my wall down for about half a second. But as soon as that Red Palace was up, I just knew it was all over Red Rover. So many Springalds as well. Nothing I can really do here. So just naturally, I'm going to tap out. But that's going to be it. If you've got, as I said, if you've got any questions, let me know down below. And yeah, we'll catch you guys in the next one. Thank you so much for watching.